This video contains spoilers for the games listed on screen. Have you ever looked at something and thought, I could climb that? A tree, a pole, a mountain, a building. It seems to be a pretty universal instinct among at the very least young boys to see one of these and want to get to the top. I would know, I used to be both young and a boy. And that fascination can continue into adulthood. My own father would regale me with the times he and his mates would go mountain climbing, when he was the age I am now. A mountain is an interesting obstacle, isn't it? You're not trying to go over or past something, trying to get to some other greater goal. You're trying to conquer it by getting to the top. The mountain is the goal. Once you've done that, you still have to get back to the bottom somehow, but who cares? You did it, you climbed the mountain. You accomplished a feat, one so obvious and clear it seems to be an implicit part of human nature. Is it any wonder, then, that climbing things tends to show up a lot in our art as well? It's a deliciously obvious metaphor. To ascend to a peak is to reach a point of accomplishment, of enlightenment, of divinity. Moses received the commandments on a mountain. Whether you believe this to be true or not, the symbolic utility of the mountain is stark. Of course, you know what channel this is, you know what art form I'm going to be talking about. In games, too, climbing presents a perfect opportunity. Traditionally, a game will give you an ultimate goal to strive towards. Climbing something presents opportunities for gameplay. Entire experiences have been built around systems designed to let you climb. How many games copied Assassin's Creed's parkour system? How many more will copy Breath of the Wild's? But the interesting thing about climbing in video games compared to other mediums is that it can be both metaphor and gameplay. This is a unique feature for an interactive art form. You can accompany the characters on their journey to the peak, and at the same time you yourself can strive for that peak too. So, let us begin our own ascent. It starts with a Devil May Cry 3 revolves around a tower, specifically this one. This is the Temin Nigru. It is the gateway to the demon world. Aside from the very beginning of the game, the entirety of the game takes place inside it, around it, on top of it, or under it. It is this game. Devil May Cry 3 revolves around the Temin Nigru. Specifically, it revolves around the character's journeys up it. Accordingly, I have been trying to climb it in my head for years. DMC3 starts out with Dante, Mr. Wacky Wahoo Pizza Man himself, minding his own business in the titular but as of yet unnamed office. Some demons show up, you and Dante fight them. And then you start the game, the real game, at the bottom. Guess who's at the top? This is Virgil, Dante's brother. They have a difference of opinion. Virgil's actually the one who summoned the Temin Nigru. His plan is to open the gateway to the demon world to acquire their father's sword, and thus his power. To do this, he needs something of Dante's, an amulet, one of a pair, each held by one of the brothers. So he sends him an invitation. Get to the top of the tower. Settle the feud. And this is our goal as Dante, as the player. Get to the top of the tower. Specifically, fight your way to the top of the tower because this thing is packed with demons. Here's the thing about Devil May Cry 3. It's a prequel. This is the first game in the chronology. It's Dante's first real outing, his proving ground. The game itself is subtitled Dante's Awakening for reasons both literal and metaphorical. He awakens to his true power in this game. He also awakens to himself, his family, and his place in the legacy of his father. And so, he climbs the tower. At the top is an inevitability, his fight with Virgil. So you head upwards, you fight this guy, and these guys, and this absolute freak, and you reach the top and there's Virgil, and you fight, and Dante loses. This represents one aspect of what a climb could be in a game, a goal to strive towards. You have a destination in the tower, and you know that every floor filled with enemies and traps and twists and turns is simply a stepping stone on the way there. It is, again, instinctual. The top of the tower feels like the obvious place for this fated confrontation to take place. It's poetic. Would the game feel the same if, instead of being arranged vertically, these challenges were instead arranged horizontally? Think about it. What if, instead of a tower, the game took place in a long, sprawling series of hallways? Would that work? I don't think it would. Functionally, in terms of pure gameplay, there's very little difference. But psychologically, it being a tower just feels better. It's more dramatic. It has more meaning. The tower also allows for something else, which we'll get to later. This sort of thing, the climbing game, has seen somewhat of an uptick in recent years. Bennett Foddy's infamous Getting Over It, which became an indie phenomenon upon its release in 2017, revolves around a man in a pot climbing a mountain of junk with a hammer, eventually propelling himself into space. Other games notable for their frustration have followed. 2019's Jump King, 2023's Only Up, 2024's Chained Together, all based on the idea of climbing, of ascent, of the journey of clawing your way up from the bottom. You could draw a taxonomy of these games. Chained Together is a multiplayer Only Up is a 3D Getting Over It, even Getting Over It is a sequel to a game from 2002, Sexy Hiking, as Foddy himself states in the game's narration. All of these games stemming from the simple idea of, here's something to climb, get to it, champ. There is, of course, another famous game about climbing a mountain. Celeste, released in 2018, is a game about a young woman, Madeline, who embarks on a journey up the titular Celeste Mountain, hoping the ascent will help her overcome her own personal traumas. And it will, just not in the way she's expecting. Celeste Mountain is a mystical place. The further up you get, the stranger it becomes. The more it looks into you, the more it drags out of you. In Madeline's case, what it drags out of her is this. This part of her, dubbed Madeline by the fans, is a manifestation of Madeline's anxieties. Madeline's the part of her that says, no, you can't climb this mountain. She's essentially the antagonist of the game, routinely chasing after and impeding Madeline's progress, interfering with her plans. Eventually, the journey up the mountain grants Madeline the confidence to finally confront her darker self. She tells her she wants to leave her behind. Madeline doesn't take it well. So begins the plummet. There's another thing that all those climbing games I mentioned earlier have in common. When you're not going up, you're falling. In one sense, this hits the player as a loss of progress. You've spent hours platforming your way up this mountain, and now, in an instant, you're not just back at the beginning, you're actually lower than when you started. But in another, this is clearly symbolic. Madeline's ultimate conclusion up to this point is that she needed to cast this part of her away, that her fears and anxiety had to be discarded. And this is not the conclusion she was meant to come to. It's not accepted by Madeline, and it's not accepted by the mountain. And so she is cast downward, away from the summit, away from her goal, away from the enlightenment she seeks, because she has turned away from that enlightenment. This isn't hubris. She simply wasn't ready for the ultimate lesson the mountain sought to teach her. This follows her low point in the story, the last emotional barrier she has to cross to reach the truth she needs. And it crushes her. Descent, like climbing, lends itself well to metaphor. It can be uncontrolled, like with Madeline, a plummet into the abyss, but it can also, again like climbing, be a journey. However, the end result of that journey may not be as pleasant. Whereas climbing a mountain can be seen as progressing towards enlightenment, descent is often seen as a march towards a far more unpleasant truth. So in the name of unpleasant truths, let's talk about Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 has an area called the Historical Society. It's a rundown building on the side of Lake Toluca. You get there late in the game. Unlock the door, walk through, gaze at the paintings. Look, it's the red pyramid thing. Then you get to the back and the camera swings around and there's just this. So it begins. This entire section of the game, which seems to drag on for hours, is themed around descent. It starts with this goddamn staircase which you walk down for a frankly uncomfortable amount of time. As people more notable than me have pointed out, this staircase is not a trick. It's not hard to create an illusion of this sort of thing. Famously, Mario 64 did it, teleporting the player down its infinite staircase once they got within a certain distance of the top. But in Silent Hill 2, there's no trickery. The staircase really is just that big, that deep. But you go down it for so uncomfortably long that you feel it must be infinite. You might even, coming to this conclusion, turn around and start heading back up the staircase, only to find that the way the camera frames it makes it feel like you're still heading down. But if you don't, if you keep pressing forward, the sirens in the background getting faster and faster, then, just when you're about to give up, the bottom suddenly fades into view. This is just the beginning of your descent though, a prelude for what's to come. Because throughout this part of the game, you guide protagonist James Sunderland down a series of holes. You can't see the bottom of any of them, open as they are into pitch black void. You are not given any sense of how deep they are. You do not know how far James falls each time he jumps. You just know you're plummeting deeper and deeper into the earth. And then, at the very bottom of the world, what feels like miles below ground, you get into an elevator and go even deeper. And here, at what must be the very center of the planet, you find the labyrinth. Do you even want to know what's in the labyrinth? And look, guess what happens when you get out of the labyrinth? You open a door, and you're back on the surface, not that far from where you started. If you had any doubts that this world isn't literal reality, they should be obliterated by now. This descent, this self-inflicted plummet, is unlike Celeste's. It doesn't represent a loss of progress, and it's not James's low point. In fact, you're making progress the entire time. But it's blind progress, a stumbling through the dark progress. It's designed to be disorienting. The exact meaning of this section of the game is, as with most things about Silent Hill 2, up for interpretation. However, I think there is something to be said for the fact that the area immediately after the labyrinth, after this long fall into hell, is the final area of the game. It's the one where James finds the truth he needs. So too does it seem important that James throws himself down these pits in silence, without a second thought, almost with resignation. The fact he never comments on the impossibility of this scenario further adds to its surreality. The descent through Toluca prison begs to be taken as metaphor. James hurls himself into the dark of the abyss because it's all he knows how to do anymore. He has nowhere else to go, and past the bottom of that abyss is the secret at the heart of the entire game. Other games flirt with descent too. In Hollow Knight, the truth of your existence can only be found by descending into the abyss, a hidden area at the very bottom of the world. In Persona 5, the collective unconscious of mankind is represented as a twisting maze of subway tunnels that drills down towards the planet's core. And at the bottom, a prison wardened by man's own desires, manifested as a god. And in real life, there are, of course, cavers. People who make a pastime of exploring cave systems, constantly navigating hostile structures not designed for man in their pursuit to go even farther down. As an aside, have you ever heard of the Well to Hell? According to the urban legend, a team of scientists in Siberia were drilling a borehole into the Earth's crust. They got 9 miles deep when suddenly the drill stopped hitting resistance. Assuming they'd broken into a cavity, the team lowered a microphone down the hole and were mortified when the screams of the damned started playing through their speakers. The fun part of this legend, silly as it may be, is what it's based on, because Russia actually did bore a hole into the Earth's crust, the Kola Super Deep Borehole, and it's currently the deepest man-made hole on the planet at 7.6 miles. It's since been abandoned, the building over top demolished, the hole covered. The desire to go down, to see what's beneath us, even if we might not like it, is just as real as the urge to climb. In Devil May Cry 3, after Dante loses the fight with his brother, he too descends. Back down the tower, back down the Temenigru, back down the thing you spent the entire game climbing. And he does it in typical Dante fashion. This too is a turning point in the game. The fight with Virgil is where you unlock Dante's Devil Trigger, which is a series staple. But the plummet also signifies something. Dante is hurtling downwards in a single-minded pursuit of his brother. His resolve isn't shaken, it's doubled. This is yet another thing a fall can signify, a fall taken willingly. Surrendering oneself to gravity also, after all, means overcoming the fear of falling. Not that Dante's ever been afraid of anything, but, well, you catch my drift. Dante hurtles down the side of the Temenigru, singular in purpose, firm of will, and having an absolute blast. Then he gets eaten by a flying whale, and you know what, I don't know, I've got nothing. Biblical allusion to Leviathan, Moby Dick, they just wanted to squeeze in one more level with an underwhelming boss fight. Who knows? But after you kill the flying whale, it plummets too, and Dante's back on the ground. And now you're headed down, into the tower's basement levels. And there you fight Virgil again, and this time you're evenly matched. The fall is over, Dante's come out the other side, and he's stronger now than ever. After her fall, Madeline meets an old woman. This is not the first time you've encountered this character. She's literally the first person you talk to at the very start of the game. And she laughs at Madeline, and then she tells her to go talk to her other self. So Madeline does. She climbs through the caves until she encounters her, Madeline, and she apologizes. It doesn't go well. Healing is, after all, a painful process. There's a boss fight, the game's only boss fight. It's a gauntlet of platforming challenges with Madeline hurling attacks at you the entire time. It's grueling, but it's nothing you can't handle. After all, you've made it this far. You follow her, deeper and deeper into the earth. Eventually, you hit the bottom. Madeline gives first, says she'll go away if that's what Madeline really wants. Madeline says no. They'll climb the mountain together. So begins the ascent. This is the most exhilarating stretch of the game. You're rocketing upwards through all the areas you've cleared, propelled by Madeline in your new second dash. As you approach the summit, markers begin to appear. 30, 29, 28, counting down as you go up. You keep pushing, you keep climbing. You realize you couldn't have gotten this far if Madeline hadn't fallen. She couldn't have made it to the summit before. Now, she can. And so, she's already reached her goal. She's learned what she needs to, has the answer she was seeking. The final ascent is a victory lap. In Devil May Cry 3, your fight with Virgil on the lowest floor of the tower is interrupted by Arkham, the game's other villain. He uses the blood spilled in your battle, as well as his daughter's. This woman was his daughter the whole time, by the way, also he was secretly this freak as well, to awaken the Temenigru. He is brought up to the top of the tower by a raising platform, his own ascension towards divinity. And so, once again, Dante must climb the tower. This is the lowest point of the Temenigru. It's the lowest point of the story. Things are bleaker than they ever have been, and Dante does this. Up elevators, upstairs, through new corridors, through old hallways, inside the tower, outside the tower, it's all about the Temenigru. Rise, fall, rise again. The arc of a narrative mapped onto a tower and the path you take through it. You're still not done, and neither is Dante. You go higher, through new sections of the tower that have unraveled themselves into existence. Now, at the very apex of the world, Dante literally fights his doppelganger. Do I even need to spell it out at this point? You reach the top of the tower for the second time. Arkham's there, mutated into an amorphous, inhuman pustule in his search for power, a fitting end for someone who would forsake their humanity. Dante and Virgil dispatch him together. And then, it's time. You and Virgil, Dante and his brother, at the top of the tower at the end of your journey. Mission 20, Screaming Souls. Cast off your pride and embrace your fate. It's the best boss fight in the game. Dante defeats Virgil this time. This is the peak he and you, the player, have been striving towards the entire game. Virgil is your rival. He is the tower you've been trying to ascend. Every encounter with him up until now has been a stepping stone leading to this moment. It's a bittersweet victory. The day is saved, but Dante still loses his brother. Dante cries, but he tries to play it off. Lady remarks that maybe somewhere out there even a devil may cry when he loses a loved one, which is, of course, where Dante's shop's name comes from. It's the retroactive source of the title of the franchise. This scene doesn't take place at the top of the Tema Negro. It takes place in the streets at its base, the same streets you started the game in. The tower has been climbed. The adventure is over. Time to go home. In Celeste, the markers continue to count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The platforming suddenly becomes easier, less elaborate. The angle you're climbing at goes from vertical to a gentle incline. And then... Madeline and the part of her have a talk. Madeline is afraid of what'll happen when they leave the mountain, when she won't have the ability to speak openly like this. She says, "I just can't go back to how it was before the mountain." Madeline reassures her, "Don't worry, I can't go back to that either." The climb has changed her. The peak she found wasn't the one she sought, but it's the one she needed. By reaching the top of the mountain, she has reached her enlightenment. And in Silent Hill 2, the game ends not at the bottom of the world, but at the top of several flights of stairs. And in Hollow Knight, the final boss isn't the void, it's the sun. And in Persona 5, the fight against God doesn't happen at the bottom of Mementos, it happens atop a skyscraper. We all want to rise. We all have to fall to get there.